Good evening. It is October 24, 2023. Welcome to the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education meeting. And here is your board president, Shelley Ryan.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. In closed session, we had conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, government code section 54946.9. Subdivision D1 settlement agreement number 9956. We had discussion and the following action was taken. It was unanimous of the 4 board members. The motion was made by Ms. Chong, seconded by Ms. Gill. No? The other way around? Okay. Ms. Gill made the motion, seconded by Ms. Chong, and the motion passed regarding the settlement agreement. And so with that, I want to review the board vote. Voted as following: Mr. Chang.
Aye.
Mrs. Chong.
Aye.
Mrs. Gill.
Aye.
And board member Lamb is not here this evening, and Shelley Ryan voted aye in the settlement agreement. It is now 7:02, regular open session called to order. All right, roll call vote. Mrs. Lamb. She's not here. Mrs. Gill.
Here.
Mrs. Chong.
Here.
Mr. Chang.
Here.
Mrs. Ryan, aye. Student board member, Ms. Choi.
Here.
All right, next we have Dr. Richter. Would you please introduce our student who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, President Ryan. It would be my pleasure. Tonight, we have the distinct honor of inviting up Peter Broussard from Huntington Middle School to lead the Board of Education in the salute to the flag. So Peter, if you would like to come up to the podium and join us. And please feel free to share and introduce anyone that you brought along tonight to support you.
Let me just get my stuff ready.
Thank you for being prepared. I love it.
Thank you. Please put your right hand on your heart and please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Greetings, everyone. My name is Peter Broussard, an 8th grader who attends Huntington Middle School, which I'm representing today and giving you an update about. I'm so honored to be here today in this nice boardroom alongside our campus, which is literally right there. Our school is truly exceptional in every way, from our experienced teachers, dedicated staff, to our modern learning spaces and student-led programs. We offer sports teams for all levels, recently constructed a new athletics complex, and have 3 tournament level tennis courts, which is wonderful. I participate in the varsity team, which motivates me to work hard, keep learning, and establish lifelong teamwork skills. But that's not all that truly defines Huntington Middle School. What truly defines is our student-led programs. These programs teach valuable communication, teamwork, and life skills to these students. I'm even in the web program in our school. It's really good because it teaches essential skills to the 6th graders. We help them open lockers. We help them navigate our complex campus. Yeah, it's very big. We do a lot of things, and I learned a lot from that experience. I'm just grateful our school provides those opportunities. Our fun environment at school, thanks to our PTA-sponsored noontime activities, is just another example on how our school prioritizes our students' well-being. Their help, including with the school board, made our school year start with amazing blast. with things like the outdoor education camps to Pali Mountain and Catalina Island, where the 7th graders are currently. The experiences we'll have there will always be with us forever. We're thankful for the support of the school board and others who fund these amazing activities that help our students thrive. Huntington Middle School is truly an inspiring place, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. I want to especially thank my parents, Annie Broussard, Paul Broussard, and my principal, Miss Hazlett. Sadly, Miss Coda, the assistant principal, is currently absent at Catalina, but I also thank her too. Thank you so much for making this school year the best it can be.
Peter, I want to thank you for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. You have a certificate for you. I'm going to ask you to come right here front and center so we can get a photograph. And if mom and dad and Bob would like to join us. Here is the certificate, recognizing you for and for being here. And seriously,
Background, kind of background.
Sure, no problem, no problem. Okay, so we'll take 2 photos.
Is it wallpaper?
Matter of fact, you don't get to leave. You can stay here. Would you like the dog to come up to you? You can get the picture, he or she. Is it a she? Can I join? It's a he.
Pablo.
Pablo can be in the picture.
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, Pablo. Yeah, okay.
Tails.
2 and 3. Hello.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank
you so much. Is he?
Yes.
Need to bring them. If you're a board dog. Maybe sneak off.
All right, thank you so much for that. Next, I need the approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Gill.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Roll call, Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, Student Board Member, Ms. Cho.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Approval of the minutes for October 10th, Board of Education meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve October 10th, 2023?
I move to approve.
Thank
the
you,
minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Gill. And so with that roll call vote, Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, and Student Board Member, Ms. Cho.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes for the approval of board minutes, October 10th. San Marino Unified School District Spotlight. I would like to turn this over to Principal Wolf to introduce our own 2024 Tournament of Roses Royal Court finalists.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Ryan, members of the board, Superintendent Delatorre, and Cabinet. We are very proud at San Marino High School to introduce the following 3 students. First, a senior with a 4.29 GPA, Mira Imamali. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Mira was a Rose Court finalist this year, one of 28 finalists from 15 schools that participated. So congratulations, Mira. That's really amazing that you made it that far. And we have 2 members of the Pasadena City College Rose Parade Honor Band this year. And they're 2 very unique positions too. So first we have Hillary Zhang, a 11th grader with a 4.54 GPA. And Hillary is going to be participating in the pageantry section, which is for tall flags, which is really cool because that again is a very unique position. Not a lot of students can make that. It's far fewer people trying out and making that than there are for some of the others. And then we have William Meyer, a 10th grader with a 3.77 GPA. And William also exceptional because he not only tried out and made the band, but then also then was selected after that to be one of the 9 herald trumpeters. And these are the people that march in front of the Queen's float in the parade. So congratulations. And come on up, you guys are gonna get a picture taken.
Yes, so let's take this one item at a time.
Okay.
Because they're 2 separate items on the board document, so sorry. So the first is Mira. Mira, come on up. And Mira, we have a certificate for you. And I'm going to point here. Okay. And this certificate reads, in recognition of being one of 28 finalists in the 2024 Tournament of Roses Royal Court, Mira, you exemplified character, service, and leadership model for your commitment to your family, school, and community. We are exceptionally proud of you, and we were so proud that you made that cut and that you were considered. You are one of the first in a lot of years to actually put yourself through that process. I know it is hard and challenging, and you should be very proud of your accomplishment, as we are of you. And you are our princess. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you. The board to stay up here, sorry, everyone. Now we are going to honor those 2 exceptional students who qualified for the honor band. So come on up. So we have certificates for you as well. In recognition of being selected to participate in the 2024 Tournament of Roses Honor Band. The Pasadena City College Tournament of Roses Honor Band has marched in the Rose Parade since 1930 and comprises current PCC Lancer marching band members and select high school students from throughout Southern California. And this is really amazing if you think about it. You're going to be part of history marching in that band this year. You are really going to be highlighted, right? And I just wanted to say, oh, no, wait, sorry. I just wanted to say congratulations to both of you. This is the first time that San Marino High School, maybe ever, have anyone in the honor band. I can't remember, and I've been here for 35 years, but maybe you know.
We had a herald trumpet last year.
Oh, we did. Who knew? Well, sorry. There she is. I did not know. We did not know that. So thank you for sharing that with us. But prior to that, I don't think that we had anyone.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. But it is amazing that you 2 were able to do that and really elevate San Marino High School, your school. You made your parents so proud, and you made us proud. So we will be watching you. We will be watching you march on January 1st, or whenever the parade is this year, because it's not on the first. We're gonna take a picture. Everybody gather. And then also the parents who'd like to come up and be part of the picture, you're more than welcome to do that. We can take one with just the kids first, and then we'll get the parents. How about that? Okay.
Right over here to the camera. 1, 2, and 3. One more. You count 3. 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, now it's parents. Come on. Here we go, very good. Okay.
One, two, and one more here. And three. One, two, three.
Congratulations, parents.
Yeah, can we do it now?
We got it. Did they move it up?
Yeah.
They did, no.
Yeah.
A trumpet player. Good to know.
Leave it. No audience.
No more.
That's okay.
All right. We will probably have to bring in extra seating for the crowds.
I know.
All right.
So is that the lady there? In the Zoom?
Lauren.
Do we have an audience?
You have an audience.
We do.
We have an-
Excellent. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Good.
All right, public comment. The Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Persons who wish to provide public comment will have three options to submit public comments. Submit through an online form. Request to speak during the meeting via Zoom. Request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. As of this afternoon at 3:30, we did not have any submissions online. And so Dr. Choi, if you could do us the honor in seeing if anyone would like to speak from Zoom.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. If you'd like to make a request, please press the raise hand icon or dial *9. Okay, we have no requests.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. Next, we have the consent section. Do I have a motion to approve the consent section 9A to 9I?
I move to approve the consent section 9A through I.
Actually need to recuse myself from item number 9I as I have a child in that trip and there's a conflict of interest. So if I can amend that motion to approve consent agenda A through H.
And then we'll have a separate vote.
Okay. So we have a motion from Mrs. Chong, and then is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Gill. And so the motion is to approve consent section 9A to 9H. With that roll call, Mrs. Gill.
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, aye, and student board member, Ms. Cho.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion has passed for consent section 9A through 9H. Now I'd like to call a motion for consent section item 9I.
I so move.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Gill. Do I
Second.
have a second? Thank you, Mr. Chang. And with that roll call,
Aye.
Mrs. Gill, thank you. Mrs. John, you've recused yourself?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I. Student Board Member?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion has passed. Communication section, communications from the Board of Education. We ask that each board member take no more than 2 to 3 minutes to share their communication. Let's start with Mrs. Gill.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryan. So far, the month of October has been so busy and fun with festive things around all the school campuses. On the 13th, this is a tennis tournament that I, as a Valentine parent, volunteered to host last year that got rescheduled to just a couple of weeks ago. It was really fun playing tennis and raising some money for Valentine's PTA, and we are actually looking to expand it to be inclusive of all the campuses coming up. It was really fun. The 14th is homecoming. The dance got our daughter off to homecoming, and it seems like everyone had a great time, and I'm sure Megan will have some more info on that. On the 18th, I was unable to attend the principal's coffee because with safety always being top of mind and also being on that committee for the board, I attended a school safety and communications seminar via Zoom, which was really interesting, talking about the importance of continuity of communications for emergencies. And I look forward to hearing more from Dr. Choi on his program, the pilot program. So yeah. The 19th was the town hall on the San Marino USD facilities needs. And I think it was great that we had a work product to present to the community. So as a first pass, that people could let their voices be heard as we start to get more concrete ideas and product going forward with our facilities master plan. On the 20th, I was at the homecoming parade, which was super fun. I got to ride in the car with President Ryan and our football coach, Turner, which was really fun. The kids loved seeing him. I feel like he's sort of becoming a local celebrity. And on the 21st, I volunteered at Huntington Breakfast, which is always a good time. And they went back to the theme of the Chuck Wagon. It's the Ghosts of Chuck Wagon's Past, which is just so darling. So great to have that tradition. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Gill, Mrs. Chong.
Thank you. So in addition to attending some of the events, Mrs. Gill mentioned, also attended the Carver Parent Party. Thank you to all of the parents who put a lot of work into that. I think it was very successful. Everybody was dressed in roaring 20s garb, and so it was kind of fun to just have a really big theme to celebrate. In addition to that, I also attended a couple of college admission webinars from Harvard and Stanford School of Education. And I mentioned those only because they really spoke to the shift in education and what the students are really thinking about and colleges are thinking about. And so a lot of the seminars really stress that these students really need to be looking at themselves with a strength-based perspective so that they can represent themselves in terms of their past and ongoing achievements and their future contributions and promise that they may offer to the universities. And so a big part of listening to those in the wake of the Supreme Court decisions was really about trying to find ways for students and for counselors and teachers to effectively highlight those without it necessarily just being about their race. Because that is not something that the Supreme Court will support any longer. And so I just wanted to, I thought it was important to see how our counselors might be absorbing that message, how they might be adapting their advising to students, how they might be supported in writing effective letters of recommendation for our students, because I think the trend oftentimes is for students to feel that they have to, for lack of a better phrase, trauma dump And it sort of exploits them. And that's really not about that. It's about making sure that these students are really coming from a place of strength of what they've accomplished. And so it was interesting hearing it from Harvard and Stanford's perspective, as they sort of oftentimes will sort of lead the charge on how colleges are looking at admissions. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention was an upcoming workshop that I thought was interesting with East Meets West. They're having a financial literacy workshop on November 5th at the Kroll Library. And I thought that might be something of interest for our community to look at, because having our students prepared for financial literacy would seem a really beneficial tool. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mrs. Sean. Mr. Chang.
October 14, I attend the cover PTA party. Look like I entered to the 1920, you know. So my fellow Jen Chong and Joanna Lam and the superintendent Dr. Territory and assistant superintendent Nina Richter all dressed up. Yeah, I almost cannot recognize them. Yeah, it's too good. Yeah. And then the town hall meeting at the cover, I feel very positive, because we give to the community citizen and the school parent, they are able to participate their opinion. Yeah, so I think that's the good move. And then October 20 is a San Marino High School homecoming parade. I also attend the PTA affiliate dinner. I see the old friend once a year. And then football game, I'm proud we can beat the Temple City. Yeah, it's a big win. And then the next morning, I attend the Huntington breakfast. I appreciate, you know, I did not know the Chinese Cup San Marino also sponsor a booth, yeah, for the Asian the lunch. I think Asian food, yeah. So it's very good, yeah. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. This month I've been busy working through the Asian Pacific Islander School Boards Association. I will be co-hosting a workshop at the CSBA. It's called Surviving the Pandemic and Thriving. Next, I also attended a race-based admissions and the consideration from looking at it, the Supreme Court decision through the Asian American perspective. I just wanted to echo what board member Chong talked about, but also to just also add the layer that what the decision kind of left us with is, what are the layers, what are the rubrics, what are the things that we're looking at in terms of admission, not only from the Ivy League schools, but the UCs. And so that was an important discussion that they had. I also met Miss Avery Pan, who was introducing AI as artificial intelligence in schools. One of our high school teachers is working on a pilot project on that. So I was able to kind of find out more about what was happening up at the high school. San Marino Schools Foundation, I met with them on the 18th. They had a meeting here, and then with the Chinese Club as well. The FAC Town Hall was an important next step for us. And as we look at the priorities of our school district, it was very important to bring in the community and have a robust conversation on the needs of the school district. And homecoming parade was fun. Thank you to the cabinet and everyone who made it so much fun, and for the candy. I did notice some of our staff members eating some of the candy instead of throwing it. But you know, it's good for the dentist. And finally, on the 22nd, I met with some community members who had additional questions regarding the FAC. All right, with that, communication from school board member Megan Charlie.
Hi, thank you, President Ryan. So This has been quite a busy month for the district as a whole, especially on ASB side. Last week, of course, to echo everyone, was our high school's homecoming. So we started that off with our coronation dance on the 14th, which we actually held in San Marino High School's foyer in the admin building for the first time, which was actually pretty well received because we got to have the dance on 2 floors, which was pretty cool. We followed that up with, of course, our spirit dress up week and of course our parade, which thank you so much everyone for participating in. Tons of fun. Great to see all the kids out supporting the high school. And of course, we got to conclude that Friday with the football game. Our whole student section was decked out in blue and white. And of course, that ended quite successfully for us with our victory against Temple City. And the momentum hasn't stopped because, of course, this week across all 4 schools, we have our Red Ribbon Week. So we've started off this week by signing our Live Drug Free and Be Kind banner, which will be held up in San Marino's quad by the end of this week. Upcoming next in a few weeks, we are starting to plan our winter assembly as well as our hoop coming, so be on the lookout for those. This past Saturday, I actually had the opportunity to give some tours of the San Marino High School campus to the San Marino High School class of 1978, which was a super cool opportunity. It was very interesting to see kind of where San Marino High School Titans end up around 40 years of graduation, and to see that that Titan bond is so strong that they decide to come back and visit the school. And last but not least, we have our San Marino High School Showcase coming up this November 2nd. I hope to see all of you guys there. It's going to be super fun. We're going to have all of our student organizations out on the quad. Everyone's going to be repping their own clubs and teams. And it's going to be a great time with some good performances. And yeah,
All
thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you, Megan. Next, communication from the superintendent, Dr. Del Torre.
Thank you, President Ryan, members of the board, executive team, student board member Choi. Homecoming was a blast. I think this year was definitely exemplary. I think all 4 of our floats were fully operational. The kids were engaged, the adults were engaged. It really was highly successful in my opinion, and just the school spirit was very evident. And the game was amazing. The turnout was overwhelming. The students filling the stands in blue and white, as you say, just was quite a sight to see, and really exemplified all the things that we represent at San Marino High School. So thank you, student board member Choi, for being part of ASB and really, helping with school spirit. I think you have done an amazing job this year. So kudos to you. Last Thursday, we held a highly successful town hall at Carver Elementary School. The turnout was wonderful. But even with that turnout, I know that there were many people who were just unable to attend for one reason or another. And we still would very much like to get their voices, hear their voices. And we have orchestrated a vehicle for doing so. This evening, I have sent out a communique to everyone via constant contact that has a link to a survey that community members, parents can go to provide their input no later than this Thursday, October 26th. And this is the same survey that we sent out on October 3rd. So it's just a second chance to be able to provide information that we really do need. And as the board is aware, we have identified many facility needs at all 4 schools. And these capital projects, unfortunately, are not funded by the state of California. Therefore, staff and the Board of Education will need to explore a variety of different opportunities to be able to fund those capital projects that are essential to serving the needs of our existing students and students in the future. So I want to give a shout out to the Facilities Advisory Committee, who has met 9 times to date and has worked really, really hard in cooperation with LPA to come up with a facilities needs assessment and facilities master plan that will help to inform the board on what the next steps really need to be in order to address our capital facility needs. So please read the communication that has gone out and provide your opinions about the facilities and what you think is important. We will also have other opportunities in the future for public input. Dr. Lynn and myself, we continued to meet with Joy Coomer. And we are planning some additional engagement opportunities for our community. I also wanted to let everyone know that I'm going to the Nature Center Preschool in Newport Beach to do a walkthrough. This is a state-of-the-art preschool facility. And LPA has invited me to tour that site. And I can bring some people. So Francesca has expressed her interest in coming along with us. And then I was hoping Board President Ryan would consider doing that as well. But any other board member who wants to go to Newport Beach and tour this preschool facility is more than welcome to do so. I also had the opportunity to meet with PCC Superintendent Jose Gomez today to talk about our Medical Arts Academy and to explore ways that we can strengthen the program moving forward and making sure that it is sustainable, since we are using PCC instructors to teach many of the courses that we have in place. He is the interim superintendent and very acclimated to the Pasadena, San Marino area, and lives in Pasadena, hoping that he will consider that opportunity full time, because he seems like he knows an awful lot about our community and really does want to help us be successful. So the relationship that we have with PCC is very important to the future success of our dual enrollment programs. So we're very pleased about that. Attended Huntington breakfast, which was a lot of fun this past Saturday. The kids had a great time. The adults had a great time. Principal Hazlett and Assistant Principal Coda were in the bouncy maze, I guess you would call it, with these little blow up horses that they were riding. And so they were in a race, and Michelle won, just so everybody knows. Assistant Principal Coda was the victor. And there was a little like Valentine student trying to keep up with both of them and was doing somersaults, poor kid. And but it was really fun to watch. And we did post the video on Facebook if anybody liked to see it, or Instagram. Lots and lots of fun. And then that evening, I had the distinct honor of presenting to the class of 1978 at their reunion dinner at the Old Mill, which was a lot of fun, just to see how close a lot of these alumni are to this day. And many of them still live in our community. And that event was organized by Lori Modine.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just amazing and wonderful. And it was a great time. A lot of retired teachers were invited to come back and speak. And they are going to be starting, two gentlemen there, Jeff Stroud and Bert Ken, are going to be starting a Hall of Fame for San Marino High School. And so they talked a lot about that. Additionally, Kevin McCloskey and Greg Forgatch are doing something similar, but specifically with athletics. And so San Marino Schools Foundation was there to talk about fundraising as well, and to, continue to keep our alumni engaged in raising money for the school. So all in all, it was a tremendous success, and just happy to see people that still care about our schools so much. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, President.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Delatorre. Next, we have an information item. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Richter, who will review the state data with the school board. Dr.
Thank you, President Ryan, members of the board, student board member, superintendent, Dr. Delatorre, and cabinet. Tonight, I'm pleased to present a brief overview of the 2023 state assessment data. We'll be advancing the slides as we go. So on October 18th of this past week, the state of California publicly released the 2023 California Assessment of Student Progress and Performance Scores, also known as the CASP. So the purpose of this presentation tonight is to provide the board an overview of the student scores as measured by the California Assessment of Student Progress and Performance, to highlight performance comparison data, and to lastly share some steps for continued performance growth and excellence for the San Marino Unified School District. I will begin by sharing that overall statewide data does show a slight drop in scores for ELA, but a slight increase in math scores from 2022. Statewide, approximately 47% of students met or exceeded standards in ELA. This is statewide. And only 35% met or exceeded standards in math. Science scores also increased slightly statewide to approximately 30% of students meeting or exceeding standards. However, for San Marino, we are pleased to see growth across many areas this year. A few highlights for San Marino Unified that will be verified throughout the data presented this evening are worth spotlighting up front. First, excellent performance on the CASP assessment overall. SMUSD ranked in the top 2 in English language arts, math, and the California Science Test. SMUSD ranked first in math, outperforming one of our very notorious rivals. And SMUSD ranked in the top 2 in English language arts and in CAST. SMUSD demonstrated the most growth in ELA, math, and science when we compare ourselves to districts that we often look at or are compared to. So what does that look like for us? District-wide, 89% of all students tested in grades 3 through 8 and 11 met or exceeded standards in English language arts, and 86% met or exceeded standards in math. We're extremely pleased to see this growth in both English language arts and math. These scores demonstrate an increase of 2% in English language arts and 3% in math when compared to 2022 CASP data. In fact, when comparing progress and growth from last 2022 to 2023, out of the many districts we compare ourselves to or often compared to, San Marino Unified demonstrated the highest growth in English language arts and math, with the exception of only one district in math. They scored 1% higher than we did in math. So we're extremely proud to see these results for our school district for the 2023 CASP assessment. Now, the same data is charted here by grade level. The rightmost column for both English language arts and math is where we see the total percentages of students who met or exceeded standards by grade level. And then at the bottom, of course, we also see district-wide where it says all. So as you can see in math, we have 88.37, and then all the way down to 11th grade, 83.87, and then all 86% when we round up. And then in English language arts, overall at the very bottom, we see 89%, which is 88.52. Here we see the data disaggregated by the percentage of students who met or exceeded grade level standards, just to get a view overall, but to also help staff when they dive into this data at their school sites to better identify areas of needed growth and areas of content mastery to further elevate student progress across all grade levels. So it's important to see the percentage of students who met, because those students are very important to us. We don't want them to regress. Also the students who exceeded, and then of course the total. And this is for English language arts. The same slide shows the same data for math. Again, the yellow column, which has remained relatively constant across grade levels, as you can see in the upper 80s, for math across all grade levels, 3 through 8 and 11, and finally district-wide. On this slide, we see year-over-year comparisons by grade level for English language arts, starting with the pre-pandemic year, 2018-19. I thought it was important to include that year so we can really look at how far we've come and if we've gone back to levels of achievement pre-pandemic. We do not see data from 2019-2020 as the CASP was suspended that year due to COVID-19, but it's also important to note that the subsequent year, 2021, which is reflected on there, administration of the CASP was optional that year. San Marino Unified selected to administer it. So As we look at this data from one year to the next, we see grade 3 demonstrating a 6% growth increase from 86% to 92%. Grade 6 demonstrating a 5% growth from 87% to 92%. Grade 8 demonstrating a 3% growth from 84 to 87%. And lastly, grade 11 demonstrating a very significant growth increase of 9% from 79 to 88%. We can also look at this by student cohorts, and that's the work that's really going to be done at the school sites with each site's faculty to really dive into the data and see who the students are. But when we look at it from cohort, we also see growth from 2022 to 2023. We see it in grade 5, where we go from 90% in 2022 to 92% in 2023. And then in grade 6, from 87% to 89% as the students matriculate up the grade levels. We have the same data for math. When we're looking at it from one year to the next, we can observe growth from 2022, I want to say last year, but last year was 23. So 2022 to 2023. We can see that grade 6 has a 7% growth increase from 79% to 86%. And in grade 11, once again, demonstrating a very significant growth increase of 16% from 68 to 84%. When we review this data by student cohort, just a few to point out, we see from 2022 to 2023 growth in grade 5, 85% to 86%, and grade 6, 79% to 84%. Here we see the same data only in chart form with the change in growth in the bottom row. Again, for ELA, growth demonstrated across grades 3, 6, 8, 11, and district-wide, with 5 levels and overall demonstrating similar, if not higher percentages of met or exceeded standards than pre-pandemic years. With that said, however, we do recognize that there still is growth to be made and work to be done to ensure that all of our students are meeting or exceeding standards. Here's the same chart, only with the data for math. And again, math demonstrated growth across grades 6 and 11, as well as district-wide. And again, work to be done to ensure that all of our students are making growth, which means all of our grade levels are demonstrating growth as well. And the NC obviously stands for no change. This slide, we now look at the California Science Test, also referred to as the CAST. For 2023, 75% of all students in grades 5, 8, and 12 met or exceeded standards in science. On the right side of this slide, we also see comparison data from prior years. 2021 is shaded, indicating the year that CAST administration was optional. Although a 1% increase district-wide was demonstrated, arguably, we can see that across the past 4 years, there's still a lot of work to be done to ensure all of our students are meeting or exceeding science standards. We can also take a deeper dive into school performance data, and we're going to begin with Carver Elementary. We see Carver demonstrating a 2% increase from 2022 at 89% proficient to 2023 with nearly 91% proficient in English language arts. We see a stronger growth increase in math, a 4% growth increase from 2022, which was 82%, to 2023 with nearly 86% proficiency. Here we see the percent proficient in ELA and math broken down by grade level across the past 4 years. And when reviewing proficiency purely from one year to the next, we can see English language arts growth increase of 7% for grade 3, from 89 in 2022 to 96 in 2023, 96%. We see the same for math from one year to the next, an increase of 7% for grade 3 from 83% in 2022 to 90% in 2023. A 5% increase is also seen for grade 5 from 79% to 84%. Principals will be analyzing their site data with their respective faculties, reviewing year-to-year and student cohort data to identify strengths, needed areas of growth, as well as appropriate and intentional interventions and supports. Carver science test shows that 77% of all fifth graders at Carver who took the test met or exceeded standards, nearly no difference in percent proficient from 2022. Results from the last 4 years can also be seen here on the right slide. We do see that even during the optional administration year, students performed at higher levels on the CAS, where they scored at 83%. Okay, we're moving on to Valentine. Although demonstrating strong proficiency levels, Valentine did demonstrate a slight decrease of 1% in English language arts overall, from 2022, where they were at 87% proficient, to 2023, demonstrating 86% proficient. Valentine also saw a 4% decrease in math overall, from 91% in 2022 to 87% in 2023. Here we see the data for percent proficient in both ELA and math by grade levels, once again across the past 4 years. And when reviewing proficiency from one year to the next, we see ELA growth increase of 4% for grade 3 from 84 to 88. Once again, principals will be definitely analyzing their site data with their faculty and their instructional leadership teams to identify areas of strength as well as areas of needed growth. And here we are for the CAST for Valentine Elementary, showing that nearly 80% of all fifth graders who took the test met or exceeded standards. However, this did demonstrate an 8% decrease from 2022. Results from the last 4 years can be seen here on the right side of the slide. Next, we have Huntington Middle School. Here, students demonstrated a 1% increase in English language arts from 88% in 2022 to 89% in 2023. A 2% increase was also demonstrated in math from 84% to 86% in 2023. For an HMS, percent proficient in ELA and math across grade levels for the past 4 years can be seen here on this slide. And when reviewing the proficiency from one year to the next, we see English language arts growth increase of 5% for grade 6 from 87% in 2022 to 92% in 2023, as well as a 5% increase in grade 8 from 84% to 89% in 2023. We see the same for math. Grade 6 shows a 7% increase from 79% in 2022 to 86% in 2023, and 8th grade with a 2% increase from 85 to 87 in 2023. Again, principals will be taking all this data back to their respective sites and faculty for further review. HMS CAS shows that approximately 78% of all 8th graders who took the assessment demonstrated that they met or exceeded standards in science. And this is exactly no change from last year. The percentages are exactly the same. Okay, moving on to San Marino High School. As shown on this slide, nearly 88% of all students in grade 11 met or exceeded standards in language arts, and nearly 84% demonstrated that they met or exceeded standards in math. For 2023, San Marino High School demonstrated a 9% increase in English language proficiency from 2022, where they were at 79%, to 2023, where they are now at nearly 88%. Similarly, San Marino High School demonstrated a 16-point increase in math proficiency from 68% in 2022 to 84% in 2023. So this is great news for our high school. We see here percent proficient, say that 5 times fast, in ELA and math for grade 11 across the past 4 years. And when reviewing proficiency purely from one year to the next, we see significant growth in ELA and in math, again, that 9% in ELA and 16% in math. So really bringing back our high school to pre-pandemic proficiency levels. And lastly, we have the CAS, the science test, which shows 60% of all 12th graders demonstrating proficiency in science, which is nearly a 4% increase from 2022. Okay, moving on to district comparisons. This slide shows how San Marino ranked in English language arts among some of the districts that we often look to compare ourselves to, local districts, or local districts that we are often compared to from others. The light blue bottom half of the bar represents the percentage of students who met or exceeded in 2022, and the top darker blue bar represents percentage met or exceeded in 2023. So as we can see, once again, San Marino ranks among the top 2. In comparison to one of the districts we're often compared to, San Marino demonstrated only 1% below for ELA in 2022, but demonstrated the same percentage, 89%, in 2023. Also, out of the 14 districts that we have listed here, only 3 districts scored in the 80th percentile for ELA, and only 2 scored in the 80th percentile for math, which we'll see on the next page. Also worth mentioning, from 2022 to 2023, San Marino demonstrated higher growth performance in both English language arts and math of all 14 districts, with a 2% increase in English language arts and a 3% increase in math, with the exception of one school district, as I mentioned earlier, and we can see that up here on the screen, but they were only 1% higher. We have the same comparison data for math. Again, the light blue bottom half is 2022. The dark blue upper half is 2023, percentage of students who met or exceeded. So when compared to the same district, here, San Marino demonstrated the same percentage of met or exceeded standards for math in 2022, but higher in 2023 with a ranking of 86%, putting San Marino Unified above the other districts. And lastly, the same comparison here for science. Again, the colors, light blue 2022, dark blue 2023. When compared to the same districts, San Marino demonstrated a higher percentage of met or exceeded standards in 2022 than other districts, and this increased by 1% in 2023, still ranking San Marino in the top 2. And lastly, this slide really serves to substantiate the CAST 2023 data reporting, showing San Marino ranking in the top 2 school districts as measured by the CASP test for ELA, for math, and for science. As you can see, San Marino again is ranked as top for math, in the top 2 for English language arts, and in the top 2 for science. So we know the hard work continues for us as a school district. However, none of this could be possible without our dedicated teachers, administrators, instructional aides, parents, and community members. The growth demonstrated by our students is the result of their hard work and their ongoing dedication. So what does this mean for San Marino Unified with regards to actionable next steps? So listed on this slide, we see many of the actions that San Marino Unified commits to in order to further strengthen the intentional focus on data-driven instructional best practices for the purpose of elevating student achievement for all students. So as we can see, this year particularly, we kicked off the school year with a strong intentional focus on data. We brought in a wonderful educational consulting group called Focus Schools to really lead our administrators, our principals and assistant principals and cabinet and superintendent through the process of developing data-driven schools. And what does that look like and how does that guide our instructional practices? That will continue all year. CASP data, iReady data, unit assessments, all of those are being brought back to the faculty and disseminated and analyzed with the instructional leadership teams, the administrators, to really dive in and see where our students are, down to the one student who may be not achieving at grade level, to be able to provide intentional supports. We are excited that we have iReady as a formative diagnostic to really capture kids who need the support early on in the school year and continue to support them throughout the school year. We are also very excited that we are introducing a secondary diagnostic, which is NWEA and IXL for students in grades 6 through 12, which will also serve to monitor and assess our students early on so that we can continue to support them as the school year progresses. We are continuing our third year with Universal Design for Learning to really personalize instruction for every single student so we can meet them where they are and elevate them from that point. Data-driven instruction supports and interventions are continuing at all 4 school sites, really looking at what the data tells us. How does iReady results align to CASP results? How do the unit tests align to CASP so that we can really provide intentional supports? Internal and external tutoring opportunities for students who may need it. Voluntary assessment practice through the CASP interim assessments. Last year, I think all of our schools administered that. School scorecards, these are something new that we introduced at the beginning of the year. And they basically are what it's called, a scorecard for the schools, really highlighting what they're extremely proud of with regards to data, looking at areas of growth, and then setting bold steps, intentional bold steps to meet goals set based off the data that they have. And those are public documents that they have put together through collaboration with their faculty. CAST administration, for the past number of years, the science test was administered to students in grade 12. We're having discussions with our high school administrators to really look at possibly administering that assessment in grade 11 based on what the test assesses. So we're really going to be dissecting the test, looking at the standards that they assess, and possibly think about administering it in grade 11 so we still have the students when we get the results. Because when they're in their senior, they graduate, we get the results after they leave us. Instructional rounds and walkthroughs. All 4 of our schools are engaging in instructional walkthroughs. They're putting together teams of teachers to walk around and identify best practices and areas of instructional focus as a school that they would like to work on. Implementation of instructional best practices based on the instructional rounds. Multiple measures, data monitoring and assessment, whether it's iReady, CASP, interim assessment, unit tests. Curriculum study teams. This year, we will be looking at convening 2 curriculum study committees, one for science and one for social studies, because we do know, particularly looking at the science data that we're looking at, we do want to start the process of an adoption, a science adoption. And so we'll be convening 2 committees, a science committee and a social studies committee, so that we can have the experts, our teachers, our science teachers and our social studies teachers be part of that committee and provide their input, feedback, and expertise when we're going through the selection process. SPSA, our school plans for student achievement. We are looking and requiring 4 specific goals this year: a goal for English language arts, a goal for math, a goal for social emotional learning, and a goal for English learners as well. Those are 4 areas we really want to focus on with our school plans. And then lastly, make sure that everything that we are doing to support our students is in alignment with the LCAP goals, which are ultimately in alignment with our board priorities. Oops, did I turn it off? And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you. Looking at Valentine, their scores going down compared to Carver's going up. Did they have any inclination of that happening based on the iReady assessments that were, taken previously to these CAPS testing?
So there is a strong correlation between iReady and the CASP assessment.
Yeah.
And I know that their instructional leadership team, as well as their grade level teams, have been looking and analyzing iReady data. We have brought in the iReady representative to walk teachers through office hours, how to look at data, how to dissect the data, and how to put together the interventions through the iReady learning path. So I'm confident that they have been looking at that to really identify where their students are and put supports into place.
But are they doing that before the CASP testing even takes place, so they know where the weaknesses and strengths are? That's not just after the fact, after we've gone down in scores.
I'm hopeful, and I believe they are. Typically, when the diagnostic assessment is given, which is 3 times a year, there's always opportunity to take the data from that assessment, whether it's the beginning of the year, middle of the year, or end of the year, and really dissect that data so that they can look at where their students are and put together small groups or small group instruction for students who need additional support, let's say for certain content areas or certain standards, content standards. So there are opportunities for that, absolutely.
Sure. And then just one other thing. I know there are 13 new teachers at Valentine. So I was just wondering what is being done to set them up for success, because we do have very high standards and high performers. And I know that we expect a lot from our students and from our teachers. So that's what I was.
Absolutely. So in addition to the beginning of the year where we have new teacher meetings or new teacher support for iReady, we had one for iReady this beginning of this year. We also have it for Power School and everything that they need to get ready to launch the new school year. We also have supports on campus where the principals invite their new teachers to voluntary meetings. If they need additional support, they can come in and meet with the site principal. If they need any support in any area or any of the district initiatives that we are currently implementing. All of the new teachers are just as amazing as our veteran teachers. I've walked campuses with my monthly principal meetings and seen the rigor and the caliber of instruction that's happening, but there are definitely opportunities to support them. They are invited to all of our professional development opportunities and some that they often ask their principal if they could participate in. So all the supports and interventions for their students that they put into place are a result of them seeking the additional help and us providing them opportunities for professional growth.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
I had a few questions. So the science curriculum adoption, what does that process look like? What are the criteria that you're looking for? And is this district-wide science curriculum?
Yes, so we are looking at going out for adoption for science curriculum district-wide K through 12. And so what we will be doing is convening a committee. We're going to send out a Google survey in the next couple of weeks to gauge interest, and hopefully we'll have our department chairs, we'll have department teachers, we'll have elementary, middle school, and high school teachers join the committee, and then we'll begin that process. There's a very methodical process to curriculum adoption, is really looking at the science standards, number one, the NGSS science standards, and the criteria for adoption processes. And so the first step will be really looking at what's out there, consulting with other school districts, looking at all the possible materials that are available for adoption, making sure they align with the state framework, making sure that they're on the California adoption list. And then from there, really bringing in the vendors when we narrow it down to the 2 or 3 that we are possibly interested that meet our needs as a school district, and having that being done as a presentation, that would be the next step. And then from there, there's a rubric that the committee will complete to check the boxes to make sure it meets all the needs, one, of a strong science curriculum, but two, the needs of our district and our students, from English language learners all the way to students who are, above exceeding grade level. From there, we would look into piloting one, possibly two of the curriculum. And then from there, usually it takes about 6 months to almost a year to pilot it. The committee reconvenes, evaluates it to see if they would like to move forward with it or not. Provide an opportunity for parents to review the curriculum as well, and then bring it forward to the board for formal adoption.
So timeline wise, that looks like we wouldn't be implementing until after next year, 25-26 school year.
Our goal is to have something to implement by fall of 2024.
So we're going to run a pilot. We're going to do the committee and run a pilot this school year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I can see that happen because I can see that that's an area that we need to pay attention to.
Right.
And our teachers really would like for us to.
Yes.
Right.
Provide them with a curriculum, and textbooks that are aligned with NGSS. So, if we could take our time and, this could be something that doesn't come to fruition until the second semester of 24-25, but I think that this is a rather urgent issue that we need to pay attention to, and we need to really provide the kids that we're educating today with the tools that they need to be successful. And I think that time is of the essence, and we've lost a lot of time because of the pandemic and all the other issues that we've had before us to deal with. And so Dr. Richter is committed to making this happen within the most expedited time frame possible, which I respect and admire, and I'm very grateful for. And we're going to provide her with all the support that she needs to make that happen.
Okay, so on that note, what are we looking at for social science, and to what extent are we looking, what's that timeline, and how is that going to incorporate the ethnic studies requirement?
So we are looking at convening a social studies curriculum study committee as well. And let me just elaborate on the curriculum study committee. It's not solely for the purpose of textbook adoption. We want to be able to sustain those committees so that throughout the year, those committees can engage in collaboration of instructional best practices, any needs or materials that are needed for their departments or for their school site. To have that professional collaboration with the experts at the table, I think is key to continue to refine the social studies and the science instructional programs. Science is not as urgent. I think the data shows us that we really do need
Social science
to look
side.
at science immediately, just given that what we're using currently and what our test scores reflect. And so we are going to convene the social studies committee at the same time. If that takes a little bit longer to implement, another semester, then that's okay. But the one thing we're very cognizant of is because we say we want to implement it in fall of 2024, if we don't find a solid curriculum, we're not going to implement it. We're not going to recommend it for adoption, because we want to give our kids the best, strongest curriculum that we can find or that's out there. Because we hope to have it for, 6 to 7 years.
Because the ethnic studies requirement needs to be put in place by 26,
26
school
one
year.
semester. Yes.
Right, okay.
And I think that might be possible through adding it to the English curriculum or the social science curriculum instead of having it stand alone or be an independent course, simply because of the numbers that we have to work with on the high school campus. Creating a separate individual course, we may not have enough faculty and enough students to be able to, create that independent.
And I think that was also the preferred choice.
Yeah.
They were leaning towards that way. Our members, social studies teachers, high school teachers who were on the committee when we went to the 3-day institute.
So we can still meet the requirement by statute.
Correct.
By holding it into
An
the
existing.
existing
Mhm.
curriculum.
Okay, and then the last question was not so much a question so much as a statement. So in looking at the ELA and the math numbers, I'm seeing the trend that the drops are in 4th, 5th, and 7th grade, which is really now our current 5th, 6th, and 8th grade students, our middle school. We looked at advancing some of our math curriculum year that took effect this year. And yet we're not necessarily seeing the same performance levels from that group. One of the comments I've heard is that sometimes the tutoring opportunities are hard to get to because of them being after school, because they're on specific days. Students have activities after school, and so they're not able to access those tutoring times as much as they would want to. And then they are not necessarily afforded any other time to actually seek guidance from any other teachers or instructors. So this isn't so much a question, but more of something that has been brought to my attention, that parents have sort of expressed, not, I wouldn't say frustration, but concern over how they could access these services.
Yeah. And one of the main, well, the value of having our principals really take this data back, more detailed data to their faculty, is to really see who these students are, whether they're in the 5th, 7th, or 9th grade. Some of them may be English learners who are new to the country, who may need a different type of support or intervention than a student who has been here for 5 to 7 years, who is performing at the same grade level. Their intervention is going to look very different because their needs are very different. So it's really important for the sites, the teachers, our principals, to really dive deep into the data to see who the students are. Are they an English learner? Are they, do they have a history of struggling or challenge, and really designing interventions that best meet their needs to move them forward. And I think that's going to be very insightful and key to developing. It's not a one size fits all. So it's got to be very personalized.
And what's our percentage of participation rate of the students who took the test? Do we know?
Off the top of my head, it was very high. I think it was in the 99th percentile, close to the 99th percentile.
So I just want to say,
Across the board.
Right. And I want to say these numbers are actually phenomenal. I think we're used to seeing, the joke is, why isn't it 100%? Right. Well, that's not realistic.
Right.
So these numbers for the most part are phenomenal, as evidenced by the fact that we are in the upper,
Yes.
stratosphere of the test scores. So kudos to what everybody's been doing to be able to recover the learning loss that we've seen during the pandemic.
Yeah,
So
but
thank you.
we, are confident enough and humble enough to realize that we still have work to do. Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you.
Joseph, did you have some?
Yeah,
comment?
so if we compare the top 5 school district, is that the each school district, the textbook is the same or different?
I haven't gotten that far yet, but I will definitely be looking at. the
I think
curriculum.
they always have a lot of factor from the daytime in the school and nighttime at the home, and then for example, English. Because I did not look at the each school district and also the grade, so I cannot make an assumption. I think each school district they have a different new immigrant, first generation. For the first generation, definitely the English probably is not will not be higher. Besides that, our neighborhood, in the school, what the program they have, like they have a lot of science program. For our neighborhood, the NASA there, JPL, the USC school, and the facility, and so they have the parent, the background, yeah, and all I think will contribute for this result, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. And so I just want to kind of stop and take a moment to really thank Dr. Delatorre and Dr. Richter for the work and the leadership that is evident in what I see in terms of data and curriculum and what you guys are trying to do. First and foremost, when we're looking at the strong correlation between the iReady results, whether it's in the beginning, the interim assessment, or the benchmark looking at later data. When we're looking at formative versus summative and the correlation to the SBAC or the CASP, we see that it is just a snapshot, right? And we understand that now when we have this baseline to look at, the interesting thing about iReady that I appreciate is iReady has the tools within it so that when the data comes back, it already formulates the small learning groups for you. So, you know, these 3 students need a little support here, this group here, and then you're able to pull in and differentiate the instruction. And so the tools that we give the teachers are so important. And so I think it's just as important as a textbook or anything else, because it's the teacher's craft and how skilled he or she is in terms of addressing those needs. And I just think you guys have done a fabulous job, incredible job, being an administrator in another school district. We probably get twice as much money, and we do not have those results. I mean, everybody saw that. Don't look at me, Dr. Lynn. So, anyways, so kudos to the team, because I know it's a team effort. I know that Stephen looks at, you know, how we test and the elements in terms of our testing and our technology. I know that Jason's doing something over there too, but you know, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure he's doing something in personnel. And Dr. Lynn, thank you always for your assistance in our budget and all the things that are important to make us very successful and to be competitive with La Cañada, that has way more businesses and just, you know, it's a different city. And when we're competing with a bigger city and to get those results, it's fabulous. So thank you so much for the work that you guys all put in. You too, Jennifer. Don't try to think that I'm going to ignore you. So, you know, you guys are a fabulous team, and I just want to thank you guys for the work that you guys do. All right, next up, we have action items, and I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Richter again. This is for arts, music, instructional material, the block grant.
Thank you, President Ryan. Tonight, I am pleased to present to the Board of Education for action, item 12A, which is the Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Block Grant. On September 27th, 2022, Governor Gavin Newsom approved Assembly Bill 185, which provides the Arts, Music, and Instructional Discretionary Block Grant, allocating funds to school districts to utilize for 5 specific expenditure purposes. These are all outlined in the plan that you have before you. They are obtaining standards-aligned professional development and instructional materials for specified subject areas. Those includes all of our content areas. Obtaining professional development and instructional materials for improving school climate, developing diverse, culturally relevant, and multilingual school book collections, operational costs, including retirement, healthcare cost increases, and COVID-19, hope that's behind us, related costs necessary to keep pupils and staff safe. So these funds, we have approximately $1.6 million. These funds are available for encumbrance or expenditure through the 25-26 school year. AB 181 also provides that districts are encouraged, however, not required, to proportionally allocate their funds to these 5 purposes. The development of the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Block Grant was conducted in collaboration and consultation with our site principals, who then consulted with their respective faculties to best expand, strengthen, and prioritize each site's program and instructional needs and vision. The plan you have before you is categorized based on these 5 allowable purposes. We took all of their needs and categorized them into the 5 allowable purposes as required by this grant. There were so many line items, and they had so many of the same requests to expand and grow their programs that we made sure that they were categorized in these areas, which one gives us the flexibility to tweak, refine, or expand what they originally would like. And also provides the flexibility to really look at vertical articulation, because we see a lot of things that all 4 school sites are interested in, like digital literacy, financial literacy, arts, VAPA, coding, medical arts, space exploration possibly in the future. So all of these things. And they can always be modified to best meet the needs of our schools and our students. And there is fluidity based on the allocations that you see here. There is fluidity to move some of the funds around if we need to for any reason, because this grant is a 3-year grant. So tonight, the staff is recommending that the board approve the arts, music, and instructional materials block grant plan to provide our students and schools the funding to enhance, expand, and introduce opportunities and programs across the levels and across the curriculum.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the arts, music, instructional material block grant?
I had a question for.
Sure.
I was just wondering, have we, because this came out in 2022, did we ever have a plan in place prior to this one?
We did not, because we
Okay.
had about 4 to 6 other competing plans that we wanted to make sure we maximize some, because they all have different maturity dates or expiration dates, if you will. So we wanted it to be very methodical. And Prop 28, which was just approved a few board meetings ago, really complements, if not supports, this block grant as well.
Move to approve?
I have a question.
Sure.
So what we approve is approve for this proposal you present.
Yes.
So mean that we also approve for each break down the figure, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we do modify the amounts in each of those 5 purposes, then we will bring it back to the board for approval as well. And we did make sure that the largest chunk was in the second row, which is all of our curriculum and subject content areas, because we're looking at science adoption, which also comes with supplemental materials, digital materials, and we wanted to make sure that we have enough funds to be able to support the adoption of science and social studies as well.
I've been heard some of school parents they try to figure out what is the definition for visual and performing arts. So mean is that some booster they can get some money to
I'm not sure I
cover for
understand the question. Boosters?
yeah.
No, the money is allocated to the district for the school site, so it will be allocated to the. school
Yeah,
site.
I know that it's allocated to school science. That mean we have a different the program curriculum. I think for the parent expectation, they thinking whether the summer program they can get a benefit from this, or some they don't. I think later they may like the school district to give a very clear. So because I know right now funding always the issue. Yeah.
And this will definitely complement what the boosters or support what the boosters do for our schools. And those are conversations that the site principal will be having with their boosters. Transparency is key, and they've always been very transparent with their boosters to show what their priorities are with this block grant.
I had one more question. So on that note, then, were there any requirements built in this grant to not supplant any previous district costs?
Believe it or not, for this grant, there was not a supplement, not supplant provision.
Okay.
Yes,
That's unusual.
it's very unusual.
So to what extent are some of these costs then things that were just supplanting what we previously had done and freeing up other money then?
None
So
of
these are
that,
actually all new.
yes, supplementing or expanding, yes.
Great. I move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaw. Thank you, Mrs. Gill. And with that, roll call vote, Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
I
Mrs. Ryan, I, student board member Megan Choi.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes to approve the arts, music, instructional material block grant. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Linda Delatorre to present the proposed board meeting date revisions. All right.
Thank you, President Ryan, members of the Board of Education, Student Board Member Choi, and executive team. The district is recommending that the Board of Education approve revising the Tuesday, February 13th, 2024 Board of Education meeting to Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. The reason for this request is that 3 members of the executive team, Dr. Delatorre, Dr. Richter, and Dr. Lin, will be attending the AASA National Education Conference in San Diego. The district is also recommending revising the Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 Board of Education meeting to Thursday, June 13th, 2024. And this is due to the fact that Dr. Richter and Dr. Delatorre will be attending the Leadership Associates Superintendent Leadership Conference in San Diego. This accommodation will allow for the LCAP and budget requirements to be included in holding 2 separate governing board public meetings in preparation for the required LCAP public hearing.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Gill. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. John. And so with that, Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mrs. John,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, Student Board Member Megan Choi.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion has passed with the revision to present the proposed new board meeting dates. All right. All right, next, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Kilmar to present the MOU between San Marino Unified School District and AUDF for LIFT Adult Transition Program.
Good evening, President Ryan, members of the board, student board member, Dr. Delatorre, cabinet and staff and community. I'm here to seek your approval for an MOU with 2 districts for 3 MOUs with 2 districts for students that are attending programs that are not available in San Marino Unified School District, specifically adult transition programs. And so I ask for your approval.
I move to approve a memorandum of understanding item 12C between San Marino Unified and Arcadia Unified,
Alhambra
Alhambra
Unified.
Unified for the LIFT Adult Transition Program.
Second.
All right. Thank you for that motion, Mrs. John and Mrs. Gill. The memorandum of understanding between San Marino Unified and Alhambra Unified School District for the LIFT Adult Transition Program, ID 9334 and ID 2360. Actually, I need to probably do a roll call, right? Roll call. All right.
Yeah, I think of that.
But it doesn't say. Okay. All right. Roll call vote. Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, Student Board Member Megan Choi.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. The next one.
Move to approve memorandum of understanding between San Marino Unified and PUSD for 22-23 PALS ATP.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Chun. Thank you, Mr. Chang. So the motion is on the floor is the understanding MOU between San Marino Unified School District and PUSD for the PALS ATP ID number 7850. And with that roll call vote, Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, Student Board Member, Ms. Choi.
Aye.
All right. Next, D.
I move to approve item 12E MOU between San Marino Unified and Pasadena Unified for the 23-24 PALS ATP.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Chong, and thank you, Mr. Chang. The ID number is 7850. I would like to do a roll call vote with those motions. Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, I, and Student Board Member Megan Choi.
Aye.
All right, with that, if there's nothing else, then
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Linda Delatorre, you can bring us home. Are there any superintendent discussion items?
There are none for me, but I assume there are for Mr. Chang.
Well, today I come in, I feel this is a wonderful design background. I like to appreciate who is a designer. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a team effort, actually, the entire executive team, along with Francesca Gill with 1L.
Oh,
No.
you.
The other
Francesca.
Yes, you know, met several times, right? And then Gil Cardenas, to really take a hard look at this space and decide what the best design would be. We didn't want anything too flashy, and yet we wanted to be able to cover up some of the wall space that just didn't look as nice and new as it once was. And so this was the best alternative within the budget that we had. And it really does, I think, highlight the beauty of our schools.
Yeah.
And it really brings it all home in the boardroom. It kind of puts into perspective what we're all here to do. And I just think that it gives this space a much more professional look. And what we are going to do is we're going to replace the seals that you see up there so that they pop out a little bit more. There's also going to be a district seal here, along with your nameplates on the exterior of this panel here. They did push out the furniture a little bit for everybody, so you should be more comfortable this evening than you have been in the past. And I'm very excited about the way that it's turned out. It just looks lovely. And we look forward to filling up this cabinet with awards and accolades for our programs going forward. So
One thing I did not see, superintendent stay in front of the fence.
actually, we're going to, Joseph, whenever you do decide to retire as the longest serving board member, I'm sure there'll be a statue in front of one of these schools. So we'll have to incorporate that.
You know, the parade, I and Jen Chong, we watch the Wells Fargo, the
Yeah.
building, we see those dedicated volunteer.
Right? There you go.
The grad night,
Yes.
the grad night
Yeah.
members who are
That's right.
working.
During the parade, we looked up and you could see the old guard.
They look like they're in
looking through-
jail.
So yeah,
They did.
I thought we are there.
Yes, and thank you to the old guard for refurbishing
Yeah.
those trailers. They look fantastic.
Yes.
And beyond. Very grateful for all the
So-
volunteers in our wonderful community.
Get our
So-
cabinet early to bed, maybe. All right,
Yeah,
so the
thank
meeting
you.
is adjourned.
Thank you so much.